Today I'm going to share with you Hannah's lazy way for burping a newborn. But first, before we begin, let's talk about how do you know that a baby has a burp? Well, usually I know that the baby needs to burp because they're crying and you try to nurse them and they'll start to nurse, but then they'll let go and kind of yell, "Mwah!" And then they'll try to nurse again and then they'll yell and then they'll try to nurse again and they can't quite nurse well. And so that usually means they've got a burp, upsetting their stomach. The other way you can kind of get a clue that there might be a burp is if they're laying on their back and if you put them on their back and they start screaming like they're in pain, and then you lift them up into an upright position or put some pressure on their tummy and they stop crying, that's also a lot of times a good hint that there's a burp and you got to take care of it. Not only is the burp uncomfortable for the baby, but if you don't get the burp out and you nurse them, they will always spit up the food that you feed them if there's a burp. So you want to get those burps out as soon as possible. Now, we all know about the traditional method of, you put a cloth on your shoulder and you put the baby kind of on your shoulder and you gently tap its back and walk around. That's a great way to get a burp out. And quite frankly, you don't even need to tap its back. You just got to get the baby to relax and then just kind of bounce it a little while you're walking around. And after a couple of minutes, as the baby relaxes, the burp works its way out. The second way to burp a baby is to turn it outwards and put your arms across its tummy and just walk around once again. The baby's in an upright position. Either you have a little bit of pressure on its stomach and then you just gently bounce as you walk around. And that's a great way to get a burp out. But there's a third way. And if you just had a baby and you're super fatigued, you're super exhausted, it's the middle of the night, this is my favorite way to burp a baby. And it seems very lazy, but I love it. You lay on your side and you just prop the baby up so his little arms are kind of draped over your rib cage and he's kind of looking over towards the back side of you. And then you place your top arm across his back and you place your lower arm kind of underneath the baby's bum, and then you put both of your hands snug between your thighs. And if you have substantial thighs like I do, your thighs will hold your hands in place and you just lay there without any effort of holding your baby. Now, this sounds horrible, but if you've just had a baby and you've hemorrhaged and you're like super anemic and super weak or dizzy or exhausted, this is actually a really good way to burp the baby. So anyways, the baby likes it. They're up there. They stop crying because they have that pressure on their stomach and they're in the upright position. And you just wait and in a couple minutes, they'll burp. And the other great thing about this is it actually helps the baby get stronger faster. Doctors, pediatricians are always like, be sure to give your baby tummy time. This actually counts as tummy time for the newborn baby because they like to hold, it's easier for them to hold their neck up when they're kind of at that angled position draped over your rib cage. And so it's actually easier for them to lift their head up, so their head starts to get stronger and stronger in their upper back. Also, they'll start using their legs and getting those leg muscles strong, which is healthy for them and fun for them at the same time. In fact, when I originally would do this, it was, as the baby would get older, it was just kind of a fun thing for them to do. They enjoyed kind of standing up and dancing there while I was kind of resting or vegging. And then I started noticing that if they had a burp, they would get their burps out at the same time. So then I just started using it as a method from the get-go to burp a baby when I was fatigued and exhausted or it was the middle of the night. And it just makes life easier. So there you go. There's Hannah's lazy way of burping a newborn baby.